Welcome to 843 TV. I'm your host Lisa Richardson, and today we're coming to you from the Beaufort City Hall Council Chambers.
And I am your host Annalisa Itkor. We're welcoming three very interesting guests today. First up, we have Beaufort Fire Chief Reece Bertholf.
And our next guest is the very own Mayor of Beaufort, Billy Keyserling.
And last but certainly not least, we have Danita Brown. She is the acting superintendent for the Restoration Era National Monument.
So stick around and join us for this episode of 843 TV,
where communities come to speak.
843 TV, where Bluffton comes to speak.
Where Spring Island comes to speak.
Where Hilton Head Island comes to speak.
Where Beaufort comes to speak.
TV,
where communities come to speak.
Welcome to another episode of 843 TV. Today we are at the Beaufort City Hall, and joining us we have Beaufort Mayor Billy Keyserling as well as Chief Reece Bertholf, the fire chief here. My first direction is for you, because I understand that there is a new fire station being built on Robert Small's Parkway. Tell us a little bit about it.
We're very excited to be entering into a private-public partnership in order to provide fire service in the Robert Smalls Parkway near the Castle Rock intersection. This will be the keystone to fire service for the municipalities of Beaufort and Port Royal in that area, and an area that's been targeted for high probability for intensive growth over the next few years. We've already seen that in some residential properties in that area, and there is a lot of chatter about commercial development in that corridor, and good public infrastructure will shore up the opportunities for that development to occur, and we're really excited to be a part of that.
In a sense, you're getting ahead of the curve.
Well, ideally, that's where we try to stay.
That's smart. Very smart.
Absolutely. You mentioned public and private. Could you explain what that means?
Certainly. The municipalities got together and through a lot of discussion, a lot of analysis, and a lot of thoughtful input decided to join forces with a private developer, and we leased the fire station, and they're going to build to suit lease us a fire station for 30 years.
Wow. And what is the time frame that you're looking at for this project?
Well, this project is actually already kicked off. It's in the final stages of permitting, and the fire station is going to open temporarily in a neighbor building on January 1st. So we're going to start providing the service on January 1st, and we'll be right there watching the construction process of the new fire station occur.
It's coming up fast.
It is coming up fast.
Now, we've heard the reasons for the fire department planning to build in this area. Mayor Billy, what were the thoughts in your department in terms of adding a fire station into this area?
Chief told us to do it. Whatever we do with fire and police and public safety is always what's best for the people. And as Port Royal and Beaufort grow to meet each other on the western side, it just became clear that we have a growing number of residents and businesses, and that, as you said, to get ahead of the curve and be there to meet them makes it easier for them. It helps with their insurance. Any number of ways it's very business friendly to those growing out there. So, you know, for once we are planning and actually are ahead of the curve. So often we come up with these great plans and then they drag out. The chief's leadership with the town of Port Royal and the city manager of Beaufort have really got us out front, and we're delighted.
I have to say, when I was driving out here today, I was definitely struck by the amount of development that's going on, the improvements that you're making to the streets here in Beaufort. And Lisa and I have certainly experienced the growth of schools out here in the Beaufort area. So it does seem that there is quite a boom going on here.
There's a controlled boom.
That's the best kind of booms to have.
It's not going to get out of hand, I promise.
Yeah. Been a lot of nice enhancements. Now, the Beaufort Port Royal Fire Department, I understand, has won and been recognized for a significant state award. Can you share a little bit about that with us?
Well, actually, that award's not necessarily an award. It's a recognition of the service that we provide, and it's a nationwide recognition. It's provided by the Insurance Services Office, so it's called ISO class, and that's a way to normalize the service throughout the United States that fire services provide. And what they do is they come in and evaluate 3 key areas of your public infrastructure and the ability to respond to fire emergencies. They evaluate your fire department, your communications section of your county, however that happens wherever you live, and also your water capacity. And they identified that the City of Beaufort Town of Port Royal Fire Department was awarded the highest class possible, which is Class 1. And one of the things that this fire station will do on the Highway 170 corridor at the intersection of Castle Rock Road is that any properties in the municipalities of Beaufort and Port Royal that are within 5 miles of that fire station will be eligible for the ISO Class 1. What the insurance companies do is they rate the fire departments, and then they take each individual property within those 5 miles and provide a risk analysis, and that ISO rating is part of that risk analysis for each individual property, which correlates to potentially lower insurance rates.
Yeah.
Now, with the addition of this new firehouse, is there going to be an increased need for firefighters and equipment?
Well, we did heavy analysis to figure out what it was going to take to open up a fire station out there. But yes, we did realize that we're going to have to add about 15 full-time firefighters. We had a two-pronged plan going into this, and last month we were awarded a Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response grant called SAFER from FEMA. And so that grant is going to underwrite our personnel costs for 3 years.
Oh, wow.
And actually provide a savings over what the plan was and provide more people had we not been awarded that grant. So things have really fell together nicely for the fire station.
But don't leave out the fact that we have been paying for that coverage that we will now be providing. So it's not like we're adding 15 people automatically or the costs of a new fire station. Most of it will, over time, it will pay for itself in terms of not having to subcontract with our partners out there. So the net is very small given the gain, not only in terms of the quality of service, but the potential insurance savings of the customers.
There have been multiple public presentations on just the mayor's point, and myself and the experts that worked with me to figure this out were given a finite set of dollars, and it was the sum of the dollars that the 2 municipalities use for contract services in that area. And they said, can we do it for those amount of dollars, forecasted out reasonably with inflation and rising costs for a number of years? And we said yes, we found a way to do it. And with the awarding of the SAFER grant, we actually came in under budget.
Wonderful. Well, Chief, thank you for sharing about this very important addition coming to Beaufort along with everything else. And you all stay right here. We'll be back with more 843 TV. Welcome back to 843 TV. Joining us is Mayor Billy again. We're learning all about some exciting things happening over here in Beaufort. And Mayor, we understand that one of the busiest traffic areas is actually on Ladies Island, out by the Publix. Why is that intersection so busy?
Because a large number of people move to Ladies Island. And because there are probably opportunities for that population to double. Ladies Island is larger than, in fact, the city of Beaufort.
Wow.
And
adequate
planning was not done. And so we've got that intersection of Sea Island Parkway and Ladies Island Parkway by the Publix and the Walgreens that is very difficult particularly during rush hour. The city has not been annexing residential, but we have been trying to organize and annex the donut holes to actually create a destination on the island so people don't have to leave the island for their everyday, all their needs. Similar to what's going to happen on the Burton side, on the west side of the city. The city is becoming more of a destination, a special place to go for dinner, for art galleries, for events, but your everyday needs don't fit the market of the downtown rents. So Ladies Island has grown, and the more people grow, the retailers count the rooftops, they look at the disposable income, and they see where people drive, and they zero in there. So there is a growth there. The city contracted to do a traffic study while Walmart and all of the different businesses have had to do traffic studies as a requirement, no one's looked at the aggregate. So the city contracted with a planning firm to look at all the different studies and to get a sense of where the relief, how we might get the relief. Fortunately, the county joined us by allowing us to use the the traffic impact fees that we collect to come back into the city to pay for that study. And now the county is working to, they've retained a consultant to look at all the different plans for Ladies Island to sort of see where it'll go. The study pointed out there are some ways to do some interconnectivity to take some of the traffic off of that intersection. The quickest, easiest, least expensive is just to add a turn lane when you're coming when you're coming south on Ladies Island Parkway. The other would be to connect roads from the major roads through neighborhoods to Highway 21, and so you'd take the pressure off. My understanding is that funding for that's about $30 million, and that they would be pedestrian friendly, planted medians, and something attractive, and that money will be included by the county on their penny capital transportation.
I was just going to ask, do any of these improvements rely on some kind of countywide referendum?
They all do.
Okay.
You know, historically the state pays for all this, but the state doesn't have the money even to maintain existing roads. And so Beaufort County, we're fortunate in that we're a wealthy county, and that the people have been quite generous at funding. They're looking at $120 million, $80 million for the Hilton Head Bridge. Yes. And that won't pay for the bridge. That's a down payment to create a match, and then 30 for this, and then 10 for sidewalks and interconnectivity. We've not seen that. It was passed by the county because to put a referendum on the ballot for capital expenses is something the county has to do. The city cannot do that. We can put a referendum on the ballot if we're going to borrow money that exceeds our normal limit of borrowing, and if the voters agree to it, then we can borrow that money and pay it back over time.
Another thing I've read about is the traffic circle on Ladies Island. Share with us where that stands and about navigating around it is what we're reading.
Well, we go to Bluffton, we go to Hilton Head for driver's lessons.
Absolutely, you know, that's where we live, so we're laughing.
It's the first traffic city traffic circle north of the Broad River. Other than
I didn't realize that.
I have never thought about it, but you're right. There are no traffic circles here.
Other than on Parris Island.
Yeah.
But remember, when I was a child, the only elevator in Beaufort was at the Naval Hospital. So
there was only one road then, too, right?
And it was a pretty road with beautiful oak trees, canopy like a cavern. But change it takes people time to adjust.
Yeah, of course.
And they're not accustomed to a circle. They have to learn how to use it. Circles have proven very effective and very efficient all over the world. Mm-hmm. But if you've never used a traffic circle, it can be a little mind-boggling to know that there's someone coming here and there's someone coming here, and how do I fit in here?
Right.
But you know, it makes us a tighter, more bound together community as we learn to share that circle.
There you go. Now, do you have any recommendations, just timeline-wise, on best times of day to travel that scary intersection by Publix, or how to handle it, maneuver it?
Yeah, I wouldn't call it scary. It's just,
you're right. That's a bad word.
It's cluttered.
Cluttered.
It's
Poor
cluttered.
choice of words.
You know, during rush hour, you have a lot of military and a lot of working people. Some go to Hilton Head and Bluffton. Some go to Savannah. Some go to the air station or Parris Island. So there are windows of time there that, if you're in a hurry, I wouldn't go in those general commuting windows. You can go through in the middle of the day and move right through it pretty quickly.
Yeah. Billy, thank you for sharing about all that, and y'all stay right here. We'll be back with more 843 TV.
Welcome back for more 843 TV. We are delighted to add to the mix Danita Brown. She is the acting superintendent for the National, let's see if I can get this right, the National the Reconstruction Era National Monument. Yes, I did it. That's a mouthful.
It is.
And I'm sure people have questions about that. To start with, give us a little background on the National Monument.
Okay. Well, earlier this year in January, on January 12th, through presidential proclamation, the park was started. It was started through a proclamation by then President Barack Obama. And the purpose of the monument is to really share with the American history on Reconstruction, that period of significance from 1861 to 1898. It really is a period that not many people understand a lot about, but here in Beaufort County, there is well represented aspects of all parts of that historical period.
Well, Lisa and I have actually been privy in a way that we weren't even aware. I mean, I've lived here 16 years. You've lived here for a period of time.
Yeah.
And we did a segment out at Penn Center, and we're blown away by what is offered out there. It's really, this area is so rich in history, and it's exciting that it's going to get recognized.
Yes.
Share with us what a visitor might experience there at the monument. What will they be?
Well, the monument is a series of places in Beaufort County. The National Park Service has ownership or easement on 4 sites in Beaufort County. One is Darrell Hall on the campus of Penn Center, which was historically Penn School. Darrell Hall is the oldest standing structure at Penn Center. So we're very honored to have trust of that sacred building. So Darrell Hall is one site. Another site is Camp Saxton, which is part of the Naval Hospital base right now. It was originally Oaks Plantation, but that's where the first reading of the Emancipation Proclamation took place in an elaborate ceremony with Union soldiers and newly freed African Americans on January 1st, 1863. We also have an external easement over the preservation of Brick Baptist Church, also on the island of St. Helena, as part of the Penn Center National Historic District, Landmark District, and we will assist with that easement in preserving the exterior of the building and the cemetery, which really tells the story of Reconstruction. And then we also have ownership of 706 Craven Street, which is in downtown Beaufort, which is near the heart of the Reconstruction era. There are several sites in Beaufort associated with Reconstruction, such as the story of Robert Smalls. He lived in Beaufort. So we have ownership of that, and we'll use that primarily as visitor contact center.
That's all very exciting.
It is.
Now, this is probably a good question for the both of you. What are the implications for Beaufort and Northern Beaufort County?
Probably the most important implication is that some of the young people, most of the young people who grow up here are going to know a piece of the history that's never been recorded. Now, there'll be more tourism, there'll be more scholars coming here, but let's start with making Beaufort better and enriching the lives and giving hope and opportunity. There are a lot of heroes from this period who've never been written about. We know about Robert Smalls, but we don't know about the lieutenant governor, the only African-American lieutenant governor. South Carolina history came from Beaufort. We don't know about how white people and black people got together to try to sustain Reconstruction when Jim Crow was pushing in. We don't know about many of the arts, the crafts, the self-sufficiency that was learned by recently freed slaves. So it's my hope that some of the young people here who don't have hope for their future, who don't see a light at the end of the tunnel, by looking into this rich history that precedes them, they're going to have the ability to see themselves, recast themselves as survivors and not as victims, which gives them hope. That, to me, there are lots of reasons that it's good, but let's start at home and what it does for the people who live here and the young people who grow up.
Quite a message of
What you
inspiration.
said is very powerful.
Yes.
And that's wonderful to hear that.
Now, Danita can talk very much about 253 million people visit national parks every year. So there's lots of elements to
So
it.
this is going to be officially part of the National Park Service, which is really
It's
remarkable.
so exciting.
That's your, we're joking with this cute Smokey the Bear outfit there. That's really great. What are some ways you hope to just get the word out there that this is coming, that this is here, for folks to know about?
Well, one thing that the mayor alluded to is that, you know, this is one of the 417 national parks in the National Park Service. And so we get millions of visitors every year through all of our parks. And so here in South Carolina, there are about 8 National Park Unit sites from the Piedmont area down to the coast. And we think just through that network of parks, those who come to national parks, and also introducing another generation or another group of citizens to the National Park Service through this unique national park that tells the story of Reconstruction. Again, Beaufort County is well represented in terms of aspects of the social aspects, the political, the educational aspects that came out of that period is represented here through some of the structures and the cultural landscapes.
And while the monument only reflects 4 institutions, there are over 100. There's Mitchellville on Hilton Head. There are 60 sites unique to Reconstruction, walking distance from downtown, in downtown. So while the Park Service is focusing on that, I think there are others are coming together. There's more and more conversation, and this is the house where General Saxton lived, and this is the house where Sherman slept, and this is the house where such and such, and this is where freed slaves registered to vote for the first time. So we're going to be, as a community, building upon what the Park Service is the seeds that the Park Service is planting.
It's all
Wonderful.
very exciting, it really is.
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
thank you for joining us, and thank you for joining us for a very inspirational episode of 843 TV.
Where communities come together.